chances of bringing him back. I know that they got a lot of flack when they did the Little Mermaid ride, that it was simply another retelling of the rides. But it's considered a dark ride, and that's basically what all the dark rides are, is a retelling of the movie. Mm-hmm. So I know they wanted to go a different route with Tiana's Bayou. They wanted to give it a brand new storyline. However, it wasn't solid. And to not have that thrill of, like, when you're going up the hill at Splash Mountain before the big drop, you're like a little scared, you know? You've got the vultures with the lightning flashing, and then on this side you've got Brer Rabbit stuck in the honeycomb.
And the spooky music.
And spooky music, yeah. And then all of a sudden you get up there, and you're looking over as you're about to plunge down, and you see the briar patch, you know, all the thorns and all of that. And it's like, mentally, you know, you're not going to get struck by a briar patch, but you are going to feel that, like, rush and that thrill. And so the anticipation build was so lacking in the drop because there was the lack of conflict and resolution in the storyline. All good stories have a conflict and a resolution, and that Tiana's Bayou doesn't have that.
Mm-hmm. It's all happy.
Yes.
I remember that's what my sister said when she got off, because she wrote it before me, and she just said, that was really happy. And I wasn't sure if that was a good thing or a bad thing, to be honest. Like,
yeah.
And some rides are meant to be happy, but I agree, where this is technically a thrill ride, I do think that there needs to be something at stake.
Mm-hmm.
And all it is Tiana going through the bayou, trying to find a special sound, whatever that means. That's it.
Yeah.
So,
and so I think that, like, so basically, like, through the whole ride, when I didn't know what was going on, I found out later that the reason that, like, every time I saw Tiana, there was a band of animals. It's essentially is like she was looking for that special sound, and so there would be like a band of animals here, and then a band of this different kind of animals over here, and then Lewis. So what essentially happens is we get shrunk down. And when you get shrunk down and you go to where the happy place, and Mama Odie is the one who shrinks you down, and you go down and you go to where the happy place used to be, and what it is you're shrunk down to frog size, and you find frogs that are making drumming sounds for Tiana's special sound for her restaurant. Right. So then what then happens is you see Mama Odie again, and she sprinkles something to make you bigger as you're going up. And from the outside, what you see at the top of the hill is a bunch of the really pretty bottles. And I assumed that if it wasn't going to be scary, it was at least going to be beautiful. There was going to be something to look at, something to see. And instead, what we got was a rainbow light shining at me, twisting. And that was it. That was the magic that made me be bigger again. And then you go down the hill.
And like 5 bottles at the top of the hill.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is like, makes me so mad, because in the song and the movie, Dig a Little Deeper, that is just absolutely gorgeous animation.
Oh.
Stunning to look at, with all the glass bottles in Mama Odie's tree house, and they're shining.
It's colorful.
It looks
shiny.
like they raided like a homeless person's cart that had like 5 bottles in it, and they were like, yeah, this will do, and they hung it.
Carsland Q has more bottles in it in the walls.
It does.
You know?
It feels so thrown together.
It's very lackluster.
And this leads really good into my complaints visually, is I also feel like they relied much too heavily on projections.
Yes.
We talked about this last time, that although the animatronics are really incredible, really advanced, and cool to see, it seems like the majority of the budget went to those, and a lot of the rest of the ride was done on a budget.
Let's just throw up a screen.
Yeah, let's throw up a screen.
We can keep doing this.
Yeah, and I have nothing wrong with screens. I think they're a really incredible way to add depth and dimension to an otherwise like boring set. But I think that's what it should be, is in addition to what we're looking at, not that's what we're looking at is the screen. And so I remember going into the indoors part of the ride for that first time, and I was expecting fireflies, almost like Pirates of the Caribbean at the beginning, how you have the fireflies floating around. There's a projection in the background of the bayou. Yeah. But then you have all of that bringing it forward. You have the plants, you have the crocodile, you have the fireflies, and it really wasn't giving much. And then they have the projection of Mama Odie as you start to go up the hill, and I just wasn't dazzled by it like I was expecting to be. But did you feel the same way?
Yes, 100%. I felt like, as you said, the budget for sure went into the animatronics. And I don't always think that that's the best bet, because Tiana wasn't working when I went, and so she was just singing with her arms down, and like I've seen the videos where she's like moving and she looks, great, and she's moving around.
Yeah.
But I think that put money into animatronics, but like it needs to work. And I don't know, I've never heard of people complaining that the Tokyo rides and animatronics are broken down all the time. I've never heard people complain about it. Maybe they are broken down all the time, but it's the same thing as like Rise of the Resistance. I would say that Kylo Ren is on B mode 80% of the time that I go on that ride.
Yeah.
And I'm going to assume that Tiana will be the same way, because I've seen many videos of her in B mode, or just not singing or glitching,
looking
and
really depressed at her special party,
looking real sad at her happiness.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so funny to think about is one thing that I really loved about Splash Mountain was kind of like yes, they are cartoons, but like it's cartoonish the way that they have these animatronics moving. You have Brer Bear and Brer Fox kind of sneaking around, like trying to snatch up Brer Rabbit. And I always remember the part of Brer Bear being tied up. And, and all he's doing is going up and down, up and down. Super simple mechanic. I don't think I ever saw it broken in 2 decades of riding that ride.
Oh, yeah.
And I just don't quite understand why they didn't incorporate more of that instead of these really incredible, really lifelike ones. Because if they're working correctly, you have a couple of wow moments. But then the rest of the ride just feels a little blah.
Merp. Yeah.
Merp.
Exactly. No, I agree. And I would say that the lack of seeing Tiana in her like really pretty dress, like I understand that we're sticking with the times and that she's a human and we want to keep her human the whole time. Loved that. I have no problems with that. But I mean, like, they could have made it a masquerade and she could have been in her cool, really pretty poofy dress. And same thing with Charlotte. Like, they could have made it a mask and then it would have, like, gone back to the movie a little bit where you, like, saw all those fun characters dressed in, like, masquerade type stuff. So,
yeah.
And then it would have made sense for her to be in the ball gown.
Yes.
And Naveen as well,
Yeah.
So I just think that there's a lot of things that you were expecting to see that you didn't, and the lack of Dr. Facilier is the biggest one for me. And then let me just check and make sure. Oh, the music. There was not a single moment of that ride where I was like jamming to this music thinking, yes, this is so happy. This was a great replacement to Zippity Doo Dah. Not a single one made me feel happy to have Zippity Doo Dah out of the parks, essentially. Mm-hmm. And they have so many great songs from the movie that could have really taken me there. Dig a little deeper, give it to me any day,
Went down the bayou.
Yes!
Went down the bayou. That's my favorite.
And there was actually a part where that song would have fit.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they were playing it because I went so fast.
Yeah.
But like, they could have played it during that part where there's all those lightning bugs on the screens.
Heavy on the screen. Gosh. Just so disappointing.
Yeah.
Because it's right there for them to grasp at. And I just wish I could sit in and find out the reasons for these creative decisions.
These lackluster
Why?
decisions. It's always down to budget, let's be honest. Always down to budget.
I know, but
you know what we should do is you need to give like what you said about what your thoughts is like what changed. What would create the peril that we're looking for?
Yeah. Well, this was a group effort last time. I'll sum it up for all of us. So, first of all, let's keep that initial storyline of Tiana's trying to find a special ingredient for a new recipe. I think that's so much more, like, that's easier for people to understand. It's more in line with her character. She's not a musician.
Yeah.
Lewis is, but she's not. And so I think that storyline fits her better. Okay, so Tiana needs to go back into the Bayou to find a special ingredient, and maybe while she's there, one of the friends from the other side has escaped and is sort of chasing us. Not chasing, but sort of popping up here and there as we're
He's kind of following you through the Bayou. He's just following. He
Yeah.
pops up every once in a while. A creepy black projection.
Yeah.
You know?
That's
like,
a great use for a projection.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the things from the other side.
Yeah. And it's very similar to the storyline of Splash Mountain, where you're going, I don't even know, where are you? Like in the woods?
You're just following Briar Rabbit as he tries to get to the laughing place, essentially.
Yeah. And you see Brer Fox popping up here and there, Brer Bear trying to catch him. But it's not like, I don't know. It's there, but it's not...
It's not scary, it's just like gives you a reason to like want to continue on.
Yeah, like, oh, what's he doing there? Where the laughing place is, we thought it would be really fantastic for that to be the other side. It's the perfect opportunity. You have that spooky hill in the dark.
It's all pitch black in the dark.
All pitch black. So let's say that this friend from the other side catches you and drags you to the other side.
Yes.
Perfect opportunity now for Dr. Facilier to come into the picture without jeopardizing the, what's the word I'm thinking of?
The storyline.
Yeah, the storyline of the original film. And so there you are in this spooky place. But again, they can make it kind of kitschy, cartoonish. It doesn't have
It can be like the funny little voodoo dolls.
Yes.
It can be playing music, and there can be like the tarot cards everywhere. Mm-hmm. And like, look, maybe some super religious people wouldn't like that, but really super religious people don't like a lot of things at Disney anyways, you know?
Yeah.
So
exactly. Like, it's...
But it would have given you that, like, doom and peril.
Oh, crap.
Like,
are we going to get out of... Is Tiana going to get out of here? What if we found the special ingredient in the other side?
The other side? That would be so cool.
Maybe not, but, like, you know, somehow we get out. And you know, whether that's
but like, let's bring Mama Odie back in. She gets us out of the other side.
Or, you know,
using her voodoo.
Has passed on a little firefly named Ray. And Evangeline? Hello?
Hello?
Could be a group effort to help pull us out. So as you're going up that spooky hill, it's like somehow depicting like, oh no, I don't know how they would do that. But then it's Mama Odie like trying to pull you out of the other side.
Where the Mama Odie animatronic already is.
Yeah. She's stick there, and then it's like, boom, you get to the top, and it's all her glass bottles at the top, because she has pulled you out.
And like a lot more glass bottles.
A lot more, yeah. Yeah, we need to go raid Radiator Springs.
But you know what's crazy? I was just thinking about this. Is they essentially would have already had the animatronic technology for Dr. Facilier, because he very much has the same build as Jack Skellington as when they do the Haunted Mansion overlay.
You right. You so right. Yes. It's just
tall,
so
skinny animatronic.
I have chills right now thinking of like turning the corner in the Laughing Place area, and you see the Shadow Man. Ooh, you've been messing with the Shadow Man.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's going like, welcome to the other side, you know, like something crazy, spooky, but like funny, like not scary.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
I know. If they can make a literal haunted mansion not be overly scary, I'm pretty sure they can make this ride, this part of a ride, not scary. Yeah. So then you go through the big hill, you're back, you're safe, and Tiana has that special ingredient from the Bayou. Maybe she picks it at the Bayou before we go to the other side.
Yeah, maybe she finds it before we go to the other side. Like, so many options, but like, we still could have kept the integrity of the storyline that they were trying to push, while also having conflict resolution, which is so important.
Yeah. So much better, and I just think there's a lot of lost potential.
How do we submit it? How do we submit this to the Imagineers?
I don't know. I'll check my phone number, see if I have anybody. Like,
yes.
I don't know, but those would be our changes, and that way they could also incorporate some of the songs from the original film. You can have Friends from the Other Side, you can have Going Down the Bayou, and then you can have your special new song for the ending at their little masquerade where everyone's in their ball gowns. And I think that's a really great way to marry a new storyline with the original, with the movie film. That like gives people recognition of, oh, this is Princess and the Frog, this is Tiana, you know? Yeah. Exactly. So, anyway, I'm curious to know what you guys think on that. So go.
And like, once again, here's the thing. I will reserve my judgment. I will say I've been on it one time. Maybe I need to go on multiple times to really appreciate it. But I think that I should be impressed the first time. I should be wowed the first time, you know? So, I mean, like, we can end with some positives if we want to. What positives do you have?
Well, I found a video on YouTube, which I'll link in the show notes for you guys, but basically it's a side-by-side of Splash Mountain and Tiana's Bayou, so it's like identical from where you're at in the ride. And that was really interesting to watch, because when I rode Tiana's Bayou the first time, especially through the beginning part, I remember thinking like, oh, this is kind of empty, a little bland. But then when you watch it next to Splash Mountain, they actually have added more into that opening part than Splash Mountain has. And so that helped adjust my perspective a little bit. Like, okay, I was misremembering. They did have a little bit more effort into this part. So kudos to that. And I did really think that first part of the ride was really enchanting, just with like the garden and all of that going on. The exterior. Overall, I do think that they nailed the exterior, minus
the big one. Yeah. So what I said when we were recording last time was I didn't understand why they took down the iconic tree that's on top of Splash Mountain's mountain, right? Mm-hmm. So they could have very easily built onto that tree and made it Mama Odie's tree that has the boat in the tree.
Whoa.
And given us a really big visual wow. Like, can you imagine that lit up at nighttime?
Gosh.
Like, all the colors and things that it could have had. And, like, maybe it wasn't structurally sound for something so heavy. I don't know. Once again, I'm not an Imagineer. I don't know, like, the architectural reasonings behind things.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there and I'm like, if a tree was already there, can we not build it up? Can we not, like, make something visually stunning?
Yeah.
And they added the water tower, and there's, like, the water lilies that are pretty, but it's not as, like, magnificent looking without something on top that Splash Mountain was. Splash Mountain had that, like, magnificent lighting at night.
Yeah, it had the really cool tree stump. At the very least, I don't understand why they couldn't have left it. Because now, as you turn the corner, you walk past Haunted Mansion, it looks a little stubby. They took away the crown from a queen.
Mm-hmm.
And for what?
And they put it on a water tower.
Yeah, like, if we're going to complain about budget, why did you guys spend money removing that when you could have just painted a little bit of moss on it?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I totally see there.
A little bit of moss and like a mini boat, okay? Like, it doesn't need to be this big ginormous thing. Yeah. Or just make it a moss tree that has more bottles hanging from it.
Yes. Oh
You
my
know,
gosh.
just like make something stunning to look
Yes,
at,
could you
visually
imagine that? Like you
stunning.
said, at night, all the bottles, and they have lights shining out of them. You're having like pinks and reds and yellows. It would be
So beautiful.
really beautiful. So, besides that, I do think visually from the exterior, it's really nice. So that's a positive. I need to get something off my chest though.
Bring it.
Why did they change the name of Critter Country
I
to
don't know.
Bayou Country?
Bayou Country. I don't know.
This gets under my skin so much because
And there's no reason for it.
no reason for it. Because Critter Country,
The bayou has critters.
the bayou has critters. All the animals from Princess and the Frog is
Yes.
hello. And so now it's almost alienated Winnie the Pooh that's back there because that doesn't take place in the bayou. And the what's the restaurant? Hungry Bear's
Hungry Bear Restaurant.
I don't understand. And it almost makes the bayou theming a little too excessive because now it stretches clear from like pirates, right, all the way through. You've got that plaza there, the train station, haunted mansion, Tiana's Bayou Adventure, clear back through to Winnie the Pooh. That's like,
It makes a very big land.
yes.
Essentially.
So I'm really irritated that they changed that because it just seems so unnecessary, and like it really to me it seems less cohesive now. Because when I see Bayou Country on a map, I'm not thinking, oh, that's got to be where Winnie the Pooh is.
Yes.
So that really bothers me. But I do appreciate that they kept some of the Splash Mountain characters incorporated into the ride and into some of the merch back there as well. So
I wish there was like a little bit more Briar Rabbit, Briar Fox, Briar Bear homage, you know, like
yeah.
So in the Disney World Winnie the Pooh ride, there is a picture of Mr. Toad handing the deed over to somebody because it's like, this was where Mr. Toad's Wild Ride was, you know? And they've done that in so many other things. In, I believe in Winnie the Pooh in Disneyland, you see the elk and the buffalo. There's 3 head characters that used to be in the Country Bears, which is where, you know, so like there's a lot of, like Disney always does that, but I didn't see anything specifically towards Briar Rabbit. And maybe somebody can correct me. Maybe it's there and I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, but I feel like that would have been a pretty big like thing for Disney fans to find and see. And I just didn't see any of it. So
yeah, a way to respect what came before. So yeah, I think change is hard. Change is always going to be hard for these beloved rides and characters and stories that we have grown up with. And the silver lining that I've been able to find through all of this, and this is coming from somebody that hates change. Like I've talked about it on my Instagram, on my podcast before. I really struggle with change. But the silver lining I've been able to find through all of this is, in a way, with Splash Mountain closing down, it has now become exclusively ours, like our generation, because now our kids will never be able to experience it. They will only be able to experience it through videos that we have and through pictures and through stories that we pass down to them from writing on it. And so I think that is really special. And I think about rides that came before you and me, Aubrey, that our parents would have gone on. My mom has loved Disney since she was like in her early 20s. And so there's parts of the parks that she remembers that she's told me about that now I know because of that. It's cool to know about, but I don't feel like it's... is this making sense? Like, it doesn't belong to me.
Yes, like, the nostalgia is going to be different for every generation. Like, this is going to become... Like, because India, my daughter, she has been able to ride Splash Mountain. She rode it one time.
Okay.
But she's not going to remember it. She was 5. You know? So she's not going to remember it. But actually, that's not true. She got to ride it twice. But still, she's not going to remember it as Splash Mountain. As she grows older, she is going to remember it strictly as Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And like, it's going to be a classic to her. And when Ross rides it for my son, when he rides it for his first time, it will be Tiana's adventure, you know? And so I do understand what you mean, because like, there's things that I'm like, Guardians of the Galaxy, I used to tell India, like, that was Tower of Terror when I was a kid, you know, like that meme, that grandma meme.
Yeah.
Where it's like, when I was a kid, fast passes were free and we had to just run around the park.
Sure, Grandma.
Sure, Grandma, let's get you to bed, you know? But it's like, that's really what it's going to be. And like, I get to share my memories of what, you know, certain areas used to be. And then it's going to be the exact same thing for our kids too.
Yeah.
You know? So it's going to just continue changing. And even Walt himself has that famous quote of like, Disneyland will never be finished as long as there's imagination in the world. Or I'm paraphrasing, that's not the exact quote. Yeah. But it is true that like, if it wants to evolve and continue to be relevant, then they do have to eventually get rid of things that are no longer relevant. And sadly, Song of the South was no longer relevant. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, I love that. And through all of our criticisms, our kids will come to know and love Tiana's Bayou. In the same way that we came to know and love Splash Mountain.